My fiancé said, "We're doing a no-gifts wedding. Donate to our honeymoon fund instead." Then I found out she'd registered at 4 stores under her mom's name. I said, "Transparency is important." Then I sent the registry links to every wedding guest with a note explaining the discrepancy. When her mom's phone started ringing. Original post. I, 32 male, am currently sitting in my car outside of Denny's 11 p.m. because I needed to be somewhere that wasn't my apartment while I process what just happened. My hands are still shaking a little. Bear with me. I've been engaged to my fiancé, 30F, for about 14 months. We were supposed to get married in 6 weeks. The wedding planning has been a lot. She's very particular about things, which I knew going in. Her mom is even more particular. Together, they've basically planned this entire wedding while I've nodded along and written checks. About 3 months ago, my fiancé brought up the gift situation. She said she wanted to do a no-gifts wedding where guests could optionally donate to our honeymoon fund instead. Her reasoning was that we're both adults with established households. We don't need another blender, and asking for cash felt tacky, so framing it as honeymoon contributions made it more palatable. I thought this was actually pretty thoughtful, modern, practical. I agreed immediately. We set up the honeymoon fund through one of those wedding website services. Put the link on our invitations. Made it clear that gifts weren't expected, but contributions to our trip were welcome. No pressure. Here's where it gets interesting. My cousin called me yesterday. She's on my side of the guest list, obviously, and she was asking about the wedding registry because she couldn't find it anywhere. I told her there wasn't one. We were doing the honeymoon fun thing instead. She got quiet for a second. Then she said, "That's weird because your fiancé's aunt sent my mom a registry link last week. From Williams-Sonoma." I laughed. Must be a mistake. Maybe she's thinking of a different wedding. No, she specifically said it was for your wedding, under your future mother-in-law's name. My stomach dropped. I told my cousin I'd look into it and hung up. Then I did something I'm not proud of. I went through my fiancé's email while she was in the shower. I know, privacy violation. But I had this sick feeling and I needed to know. What I found was worse than I expected. For registries. 4. Williams-Sonoma, Crate and Barrel, Pottery Barn, and Bed Bath & Beyond. All registered under my future mother-in-law's name with a note that said for my fiancé's name and my name's wedding. The combined value of items on these registries was over $52,000. $52,000. $48,000 worth of Le Creuset cookware, Egyptian cotton sheets, fancy knife sets, and decorative throw pillows. I scrolled through the email chain between my fiancée and her mom. The plan was crystal clear. Tell my side of the family about the honeymoon fund. Tell her side about the real registries. That way, they get actual gifts from her family, while my family contributes cash they can use however they want. One email from her mom said, and I quote, "His family probably can't afford nice gifts anyway. Better they just send money." My fiancé responded, "Exactly. This way we get the best of both worlds." I sat there for probably 20 minutes just staring at my phone. The woman I was about to marry had deliberately created a 2-tier system for our wedding guests based on which family they came from. She and her mother had decided that my family wasn't good enough to be trusted with actual gift giving, so they'd be funneled into the cash pile while her side got to buy the fancy stuff. It wasn't just about the gifts. It was about the contempt behind it, the assumption that my family was lesser, the coordinated deception. I waited until the next morning to confront her. I wanted to be calm. "Hey, quick question. My cousin mentioned something about a wedding registry." She didn't even flinch. "Oh, that's just something my mom set up for her side of the family. Some of my aunts are really traditional and felt weird about the honeymoon fund. So there is a registry? Just a small one, for like my grandmother and a few others who insisted. 4 registries totaling almost 50 grand is small." Her face went white. "How do you? Doesn't matter how I know. What matters is that you lied to me. You told me we were doing no gifts while secretly registering for a house worth of stuff under your mom's name. It's not like that. Then explain what it is like. My family has expectations. They want to give real gifts. Your family is different. This was just a practical solution." "Different how?" She hesitated. That hesitation told me everything. "Different how?" I repeated. "Look, My mom just thought it would be easier if you kept the real registry for my less sophisticated family. While they send cash you can spend on whatever you want. You're twisting this. I'm quoting her emails. She started crying, told me I was being dramatic, that it wasn't a big deal, that lots of couples do different things for different sides of the family. Lots of couples lie to half their guests. It wasn't lying. It was just managing expectations. I left the apartment, drove around for a few hours, came back. She'd been on the phone with her mom, because of course she had. Her mom called me that night. Didn't apologize, just tried to explain that her family does things a certain way and that she was just trying to help and that I was overreacting to a simple registry issue. I said, the issue isn't the registry. The issue is the deception and the contempt for my family baked into it. She said, you're being very sensitive about this. I hung up. That was 2 days ago. Since then, my fiancée has oscillated between apologizing, I should have told you, I'm sorry, and defending herself, but you have to understand where my mom was coming from. Her mom has called me twice more with variations of, let's just move past this. Here's what I did. I had access to our wedding website. I had the guest list spreadsheet we'd been building together. I had the 4 registry links saved. Yesterday morning, I sent an email to every single guest on both sides of the list. The subject line was, important update regarding our wedding. The body said, hi everyone, it's come to my attention that there's been some confusion about gifts for our upcoming wedding. While our invitations mentioned a honeymoon fund option, I've recently discovered that registries were also created at Williams-Sonoma, Crate and Barrel, Pottery Barn, and Bed Bath & Beyond under mother-in-law's name for our wedding. I wanted to provide transparency so everyone has the same information. Here are the links to both the honeymoon fund and the registries. Please feel free to use whichever option works best for you, or none at all. Your presence at our wedding is the only gift we need. Thank you for your understanding. I included all 5 links. Then I sent it. My fiancée found out when her aunt called her mom to ask why there were 2 different gift systems. Then her mom's phone started ringing. Then her other aunt's. Then her grandmother. Within 3 hours, I had 26 text messages, 14 missed calls, and my fiancée was screaming at me in our living room. How could you do this? I just provided transparency. Isn't that what you wanted? Everyone on the same page. You embarrassed my mother in front of her entire family. Your mother embarrassed herself by lying to half the guest list. This was none of their business. It became their business when you asked them for gifts under false pretenses. She threw her engagement ring at the wall. Told me the wedding was off. Told me I destroyed everything. I said, you destroyed it when you decided my family wasn't good enough to buy you a casserole dish. She's staying at her parents' house now. Her mom has called me 6 times today. I haven't answered. My own family has been blowing up my phone with support. Apparently the email was a bit of a scandal and everyone's talking about it. My cousin texted me, bro, that email was wild. But also you absolutely did the right thing. My mom called crying and said she was so sorry I almost married someone who thought so little of us. I feel simultaneously vindicated and gutted. I loved her, or I thought I did. Maybe I loved who I thought she was. Reddit, was I wrong to send that email? Should I have handled this privately? Update 1, 6 days later. Okay, so a lot has happened since my original post. The comments were overwhelming and honestly helped me feel less insane about everything. Here's the update you've been asking for. First, the immediate aftermath of the email. My fiancé's side of the family basically split into 2 camps. Camp 1 thinks I was completely out of line for airing family business publicly, and that I should have handled this privately. Camp 2 thinks my fiancée and her mom got exactly what they deserved for being deceptive and classist. The interesting thing is that Camp 2 is larger than my fiancée expected. Apparently, her mom has a reputation within the family for being, let's say, status conscious. Several of her aunts and cousins privately reached out to me to say they weren't surprised this happened and that they were sorry I got caught up in it. One of her cousins actually DM'd me on Instagram. I've watched her mom do stuff like this for years. She once told my wife that our wedding gift was adequate, but not inspired. Welcome to the family, I guess. Or not at this point. So that was validating. Now, here's where things got messy. 2 days after the email incident, My fiancée came back to our apartment to talk. I agreed because I figured we needed to have a real conversation at some point, even if just to figure out logistics. She sat down and immediately started crying. Not manipulative crying, genuine, ugly crying. She said she'd been up for 2 days straight, that her mom was devastated by the public humiliation, and that she couldn't believe I'd nuked their reputation over some registry confusion. I let her talk. Then I said, it wasn't confusion. It was a plan. You and your mom planned to treat my family differently because you thought they were lesser. I have emails. We didn't think they were lesser. Your mom said they probably couldn't afford nice gifts. How is that not lesser? She was being practical. She was being classist. And you went along with it. She got quiet. Then she said something that actually surprised me. Okay, fine. Yes, my mom has issues with status. I grew up with it. I didn't even realize how messed up it was until I saw it written out in that email. But that doesn't mean you had to tell everyone. Why not? Everyone was going to find out eventually when your side showed up with Luke Cruzit and my side showed up with nothing because they donated to a honeymoon fund. We would have figured something out. Like what? Return the gifts? Lie and say my family gave them. She didn't have an answer. Then she pivoted to what I think was her actual agenda. Look, my parents have put down significant deposits for this wedding. The venue, the caterer, the florist, we're talking almost $40,000 that's non-refundable. I knew where this was going. And I think we should still get married. We could do counseling. Work through this. But canceling now would be a disaster financially. So you want to marry me because the deposits are non-refundable? That's not what That's literally what you said. I'm trying to be practical. There's that word again. She started crying harder. I felt bad for about 30 seconds. Then I remember the emails. The contempt. The best of both worlds comment. I'm not marrying someone who looks down on my family. End of discussion. She left. Slammed the door so hard the frame cracked. Here's the thing nobody tells you about calling off a wedding 6 weeks out. It's a logistical nightmare. The venue and caterer were booked in her parents' name, so that's their problem. But I personally paid for the photographer, the DJ, and our honeymoon flights. The photographer agreed to refund 50% since we'd only paid the deposit. The DJ kept the whole thing because his contract was ironclad. The airline gave me credits I can use within a year. Total money I'm out, about $4,200. Could be worse. Now here's where her mom escalated things. 3 days ago, I got a letter in the mail. Certified. From a lawyer. It was a demand letter claiming I had defamed my future mother-in-law by sending false and misleading communications to wedding guests that caused severe emotional distress and reputational harm. The letter demanded a public apology sent to all guests, $15,000 in damages for emotional distress, $25,000 for reputational harm, $40,000 total. Coincidentally, about the same as their non-refundable deposits. I read that letter 3 times, laughed out loud, and called my buddy who's a litigation attorney. His assessment: this is complete garbage. Truth is an absolute defense to defamation. You didn't say anything false. You just shared links that already existed. She can send demand letters all day long, but no attorney would take this case to court. She's trying to intimidate you into paying for her losses. I told him to write a response. He did. The response was essentially, my client's communications contained no false statements. All information shared was factual. Further baseless legal threats may be considered harassment. Govern yourself accordingly. We haven't heard back yet. My ex-fiancée texted me after her mom told her about the legal response. You're really going to lawyer up against my mother? She sent me a demand letter first. Because you ruined her. I sent emails containing true information. If the truth ruins her, that's not my problem. You're so cold now. What happened to you? I found out who you really are. That's what happened. She blocked me after that. Here's the emotional part one haven't really processed yet. I keep finding wedding stuff around the apartment. The save the dates we never sent. The seating chart draft we worked on together. A post-it note in her handwriting that says, don't forget to pick up tux. I threw most of it away, but there's this one photo of us from our engagement shoot that I can't bring myself to get rid of. We look so happy. We were happy, or I thought we were. How do you mourn a future that was based on a lie? I'll update again if the legal situation develops or anything else significant happens. Update 2, 2 weeks later. Final update, I think. The legal situation resolved itself in the most predictable way possible, and I've got some closure on the whole mess. First, the demand letter situation. After my attorney sent the response, we heard nothing for about a week. Then my ex-fiancée's dad called me. Not her mom, her dad. I'd always gotten along with him. He's a quiet guy, mostly stays out of his wife's drama. The conversation went like this. Hey, I wanted to reach out man to man. Okay, my wife she's embarrassed. Really embarrassed. She shouldn't have sent that letter. Agreed. She's not going to pursue anything legally. That was a bluff. I talked her down. I appreciate you telling me. I also want to apologize. For what it's worth, I didn't know about the registry thing until your email. When I found out, I was furious. What they did to your family was wrong. Thank you for saying that. My wife has always been image conscious. It's something I try to push back on over the years, but he sighed. Anyway, I'm sorry my daughter inherited some of those tendencies. And I'm sorry you got hurt. That conversation actually meant a lot. It didn't fix anything, but it was the only genuine apology I got from anyone in that family. Now here's the interesting part. Remember how I mentioned that my ex-fiancée's family split into 2 camps? Turns out Camp 2 was more vocal than I realized. In the 2 weeks since the wedding was called off, several of her relatives have quietly distanced themselves from her mom. Her mom was apparently supposed to host some annual holiday gathering this year. 3 families declined to attend, citing scheduling conflicts. Her cousin's wife, the one whose gift was adequate but not inspired, straight up told her she didn't feel welcome anymore. This isn't stuff I witnessed directly. I heard it through the grapevine from my ex's cousin, who still talks to me occasionally. Apparently, the family group chat has been a war zone. As for my ex-fiancée herself, I haven't spoken to her since she blocked me. But her cousin told me she's struggling. She had to move back in with her parents because we were splitting rent on the apartment. She's been telling people different versions of what happened. Some stories paint me as the villain. Some acknowledge she made mistakes. I feel nothing about this, honestly. Maybe that sounds cold, but I spent 2 weeks grieving the relationship and the future I thought we had. Now I'm just tired. Here's the final thing that gave me real closure. Last week, my grandmother called me. She's 84, lives alone, sharp as a tack. She was on the original guest list and received my email like everyone else. I read that email you sent, she said. The one about the registries. Yeah, Grandma. I'm sorry you got caught up in all that drama. Don't apologize. I'm proud of you. Proud. Your grandfather and I got married in 1962. We had nothing. His family had nothing. My family had nothing. And we built a life together based on honesty and mutual respect. Okay, if that girl and her mother thought we weren't good enough to buy them a proper gift, then they weren't good enough for you. Simple as that. I teared up a little. Not gonna lie. Thanks, Grandma. You did the right thing, sweetheart. The truth might be uncomfortable, but secrets are poison. You found out what kind of person she was before you married her. That's a blessing, even if it doesn't feel like one. She's right. It doesn't feel like a blessing. It feels like getting hit by a truck and then being told the truck was actually going to drive off a cliff, so it's good you got thrown clear. Like, sure, technically better outcome, but I'm still bleeding on the pavement. I'm staying in the apartment solo now. It's expensive on one income, but I can manage for the next few months until the lease is up. After that, I'll probably find something smaller. Start fresh. Dating is not even on my radar. I need time to trust my own judgment again. How did I not see this coming? For years together, and I never realized she and her mom had this dynamic? My therapist says I'm being too hard on myself. That manipulative people are good at hiding who they are. That the fact that I acted decisively when I found out says something positive about my character. Maybe. I don't know. I'm just taking it day by day. The wedding would have been this Saturday. I already know I'm going to feel weird about it. My buddy invited me over to watch football and drink beer, so at least I won't be alone. Life goes on. Not forward, not backward. Just on. Thanks for following this whole saga, Reddit. I don't know if there's a moral to the story. Maybe it's don't marry someone whose mom writes emails calling your family cheap. Maybe it's transparency matters, even when it's messy. Maybe it's just sometimes you dodge a bullet and it still hurts. I'm logging off this account. Time to stop living this story and start living whatever comes next. Take care of yourselves. Final update, 3 weeks later. I really wasn't going to post again, but something happened and I feel like it closes the loop properly. The wedding day came and went. That Saturday, I was at my buddy's house like I mentioned, watching football, eating wings, trying not to think about the fact that I was supposed to be getting married. It mostly worked. I only checked my phone obsessively for the first couple hours. Around 6 p.m., my buddy's wife came home from a hair appointment. She sat down, gave me this look and said so. I heard some things at the salon. Turns out one of the stylists is friends with someone who works at the venue where our wedding was supposed to happen. And apparently, my ex-fiancée's family showed up there anyway. Not for a wedding, for some kind of celebration of family event. Her mom had decided that since the deposits were non-refundable, she might as well use the venue for something. So she invited about 30 family members, all from her side, for a fancy dinner party. Same date, same venue, same decorations that had already been ordered. The mental gymnastics required to spin my daughter's wedding was called off because of our deception into let's have a party anyway is genuinely impressive. But here's the kicker. According to salon gossip, which, grain of salt, but still, the event was awkward as hell. Half the people who showed up didn't really understand what they were celebrating. My ex spent most of the night crying in the bathroom. Her dad apparently left early to check on the dog, and her mom gave a speech. I don't know exactly what she said, but multiple sources described it as defensive and uncomfortable. She apparently talked about how some people can't handle tradition, and you can't trust everyone you let into your family. She was still blaming me. At a non-wedding party, held at the venue where I was supposed to marry her daughter. When my buddy's wife told me this, I didn't feel satisfaction. I thought I would, but I didn't. I just felt tired and a little sad for my ex, honestly. What must it be like to have a mother like that? To grow up being taught that status matters more than honesty? It doesn't excuse what she did, but explains it. The closure part came a few days later. I was cleaning out the last of the wedding stuff from the apartment, programs we'd printed, a box of favors that never got distributed, random decorative stuff. At the bottom of one box, I found a card. It was from my ex dated about a month before the registry thing blew up. She must have written it early and stuck it in the box with other wedding supplies. The card said, "To my future husband, I can't believe we're almost married. You've made me so happy these past 4 years. I know I'm not always easy, and I know our families are different, but I love you. I love you, S. I can't wait to start our life together. Forever yours." I sat on the floor of my apartment and cried for the first time since this whole thing started. Not because I miss her, not because I want her back, but because somewhere along the line, the person who wrote that card got lost. Or maybe she was never really there at all, and I just saw what I wanted to see. I don't know if she ever really loved me, or if she loved the idea of me, or if the whole thing was performance. I'll probably never know. What I do know is this. I told the truth when it would have been easier to stay quiet. I protected my family's dignity when it was being quietly undermined. And I walked away from a situation that would have made me miserable for the rest of my life. My grandmother was right. This was a blessing. A painful, horrible, exhausting blessing. The apartment lease ends next month. I found a smaller place closer to work. Fresh start. I'm not dating yet, but I'm not closing myself off either. When I'm ready, I'll be ready. Until then, I'm just living, working, seeing friends, eating at Denny's at normal hours instead of 11 p.m. Thanks for everything, Reddit. This community helped me feel less crazy during the craziest month of my life. One last thing. If you're planning a wedding and your partner suggests treating your family differently than theirs, that's not practical. That's a red flag the size of a stadium banner. Trust your gut. Tell the truth. And never let anyone make you feel like your family isn't good enough. Peace.